Hey, what's going on everyone? It's Griffin here, and this probably wouldn't be new information if I told you that time is one of the most important factors leading to powerful compounded growth. That's one of the reasons why you've probably heard the saying that investing as early as possible is one of the best ways to mitigate risk, as well as almost guarantee growth of your investment portfolio. For example, investing $100 a week into the S&P 500 from age 20 to 65 at an 8% return would leave this individual with just over $2 million for retirement. While a different individual starting to invest at 40 would need to invest $550 per week to achieve roughly the exact same result by age 65. And most people can't afford to invest over $2,000 a month into their investment portfolio, considering the fact that the average income is $54,000 per year. So if you're watching this right now and instead of having started investing decades ago while you're in your late 30s, maybe your 40s, or even your 50s with little to no savings whatsoever, is there still hope, and what are some strategies that you could actually implement in your life and your personal finances to avoid working retail into your 90s? Because the reality is that based on current data and inflation levels, the average Canadian couple would need roughly $1.6 million to retire, lasting 25 years, which is a number that at first glance may very well seem out of reach for many. But that's what today's video is going to try and provide you an answer to, because no, you should not give up. You just need to fine-tune your financial literacy and also implement some new strategies to essentially make up those lost years of compounded growth. So let's get into it, and thanks a lot to today's video sponsor, PolicyMe, but more on how they can help you secure competitive life insurance later on in the video. Okay, now before we can start speaking about some concrete steps to take in our personal finances to get us where we want to be, well, even though this might sound somewhat cliche, we first need to get our mindset in the right framework to accept change in the first place and also be fine-tuned for financial success, which cannot be understated. You are where you are in your life right now, whether it's your finances, your professional life, your personal life, etc., because of your environment, what you know, and then also the decisions that you've taken in parallel to each one of these. And so although you might be tempted to skip to step number 2 here, right, because mindset's a waste of time, right, well, consider this. How are you supposed to go from being, say, broke at 30 or 40 years old, but then somehow magically wealthy by age 65 if you're implementing the exact same strategies that haven't been working for you in the first place? So there needs to be radical change in what you're doing, your mindset, and then also the strategies and tactics that you're implementing in your personal finances to start actually gaining some momentum. Before I started becoming obsessed with the idea of being my own boss, building businesses, and growing my wealth, I knew literally nothing about each one of these concepts. So I started reading dozens of books, watched hundreds of hours of videos such as this one, started listening to podcasts, and also started studying individuals who had the type of success that I wanted to emulate to just get myself in a mindset of continuously learning. For some reason, a lot of people tend to think that wealthy individuals either got lucky and or got things handed to them, but you'd kind of be hard pressed to find someone who would say that a doctor just got there out of luck and got things handed to them, right? No, they studied this topic for years, decades often, and then were able to achieve the success in that field. It's the exact same thing for wealthy individuals who have studied and grown their financial literacy for decades. Additionally, I want to mention and make clear that most success is attributed to mindset and consistently applying concepts that you've learned and been exposed to for several years, often decades, more than any type of intellectual capabilities. And I mention this because it needs to be clear that IQ and intelligence have a lot less to do with financial success than most people tend to think, okay? Being a genius who builds rockets isn't a prerequisite to becoming financially free. Moving on, unfortunately, if you are later on in life with little to no savings, again, although it might be somewhat tempting to skip to more active steps here, it's really important that you focus on building out a financial foundation before making an active game plan to make up on those lost years of compound investment growth. So what I'm referring to here is nothing more than what we have previously covered on the channel, so I'm not going to spend that much time speaking about it, but I'm referring to paying off any high interest debts that you might be carrying, because it would never make sense to start investing and even building a business if on the back end you're paying, say, 7 to 25% interest on debts that you might be carrying. And then from there, cushioning yourself financially with anywhere from 3 to 12 months worth of your monthly expenses in a high interest savings account, which over the past couple of years, high interest savings account rates have been extremely low, but right now we're seeing interest rates starting to climb once again, which is nice to see for our cash savings. And if you're interested in any options that I would recommend, check out the links down below in the description. And the reason why this step is just so important and cannot be skipped over is because if you are starting to just save and invest at the age of, say, 40 or 50 years old, it's somewhat inevitable that your investing strategy will need to be a bit more aggressive passive than a typical individual that's 50 years old, where generally speaking at that age range, you're going to start tailoring your portfolio to be more on the defensive side with fixed income. But if you have zero savings or investments whatsoever at that age, it's somewhat inevitable that your strategy will need to be on the more aggressive side in order to make up on those lost years of compounded growth. And so that's why having that risk-free cash in a savings account is critical to do what you have to do with your investment strategy. And let me make this very clear here. I'm the last person to say that an emergency fund, paying off your debts, and downsizing are realistically what are going to move the needle in regards to becoming wealthy. That's simply not the case. Most individuals become wealthy through increasing their income, plain and simple. But back to what we were speaking about earlier in regards to your mindset. If you're 40 years old right now and don't have any of what we just spoke about, well, before thinking about building your wealth and your financial freedom, you need to first build out your financial foundation. Speaking of investing and planning out your personal finances, if you're later on in life and in your career, well, life insurance is also something that's really important to consider in order to protect your loved ones in the event of any unforeseen circumstances. So this is where PolicyMe, today's video sponsor, comes into play, offering Canadians extremely competitive life insurance policies, which is something to really think about in the context of your finances. It's never fun to think about the worst case scenario, like not being able to provide for your loved ones, but especially as you do get older, thinking about life insurance to cover any outstanding debts or financial obligations is absolutely something to think twice about. And what makes PolicyMe a great life insurance provider is that they offer affordable and personalized rates based on a variety of variables tailored to each applicant, such as income, debt levels, and any dependents, to make sure that you're getting the right coverage for your actual needs. Now, it's important to note here that PolicyMe offers term life insurance and not whole life insurance. The main difference being the fact that with whole life insurance, you're paying your premiums throughout the entirety of your life, and often they're 8 to 10 times higher than term life insurance, especially if you took out your policy later on in life. But term life insurance, like what PolicyMe offers, allows for more affordable and flexible policies if you're looking to gain some coverage for your debts later on in life. Signing up for a policy is extremely simple, where you can apply online in less than 20 minutes and you'll immediately find out if you're approved. Additionally, if you're signing up with a spouse, couples save 10% off the rate in the first year. So if you're looking for life insurance now or in the future, definitely check out PolicyMe, and you can also use the link down below in the description to get a quote today. Now, once your financial foundation is set, which, by the way, don't be alarmed if this takes several months or even several years. This is completely normal when you're making changes in your financial life. Well, now we can start actually strategizing your money. So this is where you'll actually start devising out a concrete plan for investing the money that you have left over each month between your income and your expenses to start growing the value of your investment portfolio. But to accomplish this, you first need to have your finger on the pulse in regards to your savings rate, which is the difference between your income and your expenses on a monthly basis. And realistically, this is something that you will have had to get familiar with when building out your financial foundation. The essence of it, though, is that you need to know exactly how much money you have coming in each month and then how much money is exiting your accounts each month in order to know exactly how much you have left over that you can use for investment purposes. All right, it's that amount exclusively that will determine how wealthy you can become over time through your investments. That's pretty much it. You don't need to watch any other YouTube videos on the topic. That is the secret formula. And the savings rate applies to all age groups, but if you're in, say, your 40s or 50s, well, you're going to majorly focus on increasing your income while also cutting down on expenses if possible, because you need to be able to have a much higher savings rate to make much larger contributions to your investment portfolio in order to, again, make up on those lost years of compound investment growth. The problem, though, is that most people focus on squeezing out more pennies from their paycheck each month rather than focusing on adding dollars to that paycheck, which ultimately is how you become wealthy, because you have a lot more money left over each month to actually put towards your investment portfolio. This is the difference between a scarcity mindset, which if you're in your 40s is probably what you currently have in place, but we want to switch that over to an abundance mindset. Back to strategizing your money, though, just like how a quarterback knows where every single player is going during a given play, you need to know exactly where all your money is going in order to make strategic decisions. So to do this, you need to create a plan that makes sense for your reality and that's tailored to your investment horizon, whether or not that be 10 or 20 years towards your retirement. For example, if say you're 40 years old and want to retire by the age of 60, well, this leaves 20 years worth of investment horizon ahead of you to get your finances in order. And say you want to achieve a portfolio value of $1.5 million, well, now you're able to reverse engineer how much you'll be needing to invest on average each month to achieve that goal, and also tailor it in parallel to how much money you're bringing in each month. This is why it's difficult to make blanket personal finance statements towards how much of your income you should be saving and investing each month, because it's completely different for everyone watching. Someone making $100,000 per year, for example, can most likely start focusing on cutting back on their expenses in order to achieve a short-term lofty investment goal, whereas someone making, say, $50,000 per year will have no other choice than to significantly increase that amount in order to achieve the same level of savings rate and reach that goal in the same time frame. Because the shorter your investment horizon, the more you need to invest each month, and the higher your investment returns actually need to be in order to get your portfolio value to that same level for retirement. Again, all of this will depend on your personal finances as well as your financial goals. This is really just to get you critically thinking in order to devise a plan that's suitable for your needs. Now, if you'll be investing on your own, I would recommend looking into exchange traded funds, ETFs for short, because they offer your portfolio instant diversity, generally low fees, as well as many different options depending on what you're looking to invest in. So if you want to create a portfolio of exchange traded funds, highly recommend that you check out my video right here, where you can learn how to craft out a portfolio of ETFs with even starting at $1,000. By the way, if you are interested in learning more about how to reverse engineer the investment goal that you have for retirement in order to determine exactly how much money you will need to invest each month depending on your age and your time horizon, check out this video that I made on the channel a couple of months back going over a retirement calculator. Back to the video. In my view, we can't speak about retirement without also speaking about property, both owning a primary residence and also investing in rental property as part of our entire global investment strategy. Now, I know that investing in real estate isn't realistically for everyone, so we'll first speak about owning a primary residence and why I believe, counter to new movements about being a perpetual renter being better, I personally believe that home ownership and paying down an asset over time is one of the best financial moves that most individuals can make. Now, this might be confusing because Robert Kiyosaki and Grant Cardone say that a home is a liability and that you should be renting where you live. But the definition of a liability is something that takes money out of your pocket each and every month, which is pretty much also the exact definition of rental payments. Realistically, everyone needs a place to live, and for the average individual or family, I'm 100% of the mindset that owning the property that you're living in and then paying it down over several decades, thus gaining equity, while it's also appreciating in value, is one of the best courses of action for financial success. Additionally, if you've been a perpetual renter your whole life, your rental payments keep going up each year, and your bank account is always dry, consider making the sacrifice of moving to an area where you can actually afford a home, put 5% down, and actually start paying down an asset that's going to serve you during retirement. And if you're still not convinced, consider checking out my video that I recently made on the channel going over a comparison between someone renting versus buying a very similar property, and I think you'll be shocked by the results. Bottom line, I believe buying and paying off a property over the next 10 to 20 years towards retirement is critical if you actually do want to be financially free, which is the point, is it not? And this comes back to the idea of lowering your expenses both now but also during retirement, right? Where if you don't own a property free and clear, well, your rental payments are going to be a never-ending and increasing liability for you. Real estate is one of the best asset classes to grow larger levels of wealth and also in a shorter period of time because you're able to utilize lower risk leverage that generally has lower interest rates than some other asset classes, and with rental property, your tenants are paying down the loan and thus buying you assets. And if you're in a position to start buying some rental properties as well, even if it's just a handful, this can also be a fantastic option to supplement your income during retirement, where over the course of the next, say, 25 years, your tenants are paying down that loan, the property is building equity, it's appreciating in value, and then once it is fully paid off during retirement, let's say, that's a great source of supplemental income. At the end of the day, if you're later on in life and in your career with little to no savings, there is still time and strategies that you can implement. The reason why I spent so much time at the beginning of the video speaking about the financial foundation as well as mainly the mindset is because those are really the main difference between someone who's going to achieve financial abundance versus financial scarcity. And once you have both of those down pat, sure, starting to invest is going to be beneficial, but really looking at investing back into your knowledge as well as your businesses are going to be the keys to success in order to achieve larger levels of financial momentum in a shorter period of time. Again, if you're interested in learning more about business as well as investing, make sure to check out the other videos that I have on my channel. Subscribe, hit the bell button to be notified if you want to be updated on new and upcoming content, and I really hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please take a second to drop a like. It really helps the channel out. Thanks again to Policy Me for sponsoring today's video, and on that note, I'll see you in the next one.